The biggest battle we will ever have to face is the battle between you and you. It's the battle of taking your mind to that limit and then breaking through. On the Mindful Experiment podcast, we will share concepts, universal laws, and interviewing individuals who have done just that, who have gone through the dark times and through those moments allowed their light to shine bright. I'm your host, Dr. Vic Manzo, and I want to thank you for listening to the podcast and taking this journey with me as we discover different avenues to break through those limits, expand your reality, and evolve into the person you desire to be. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. What up, guys? It's Dr. Vic, and you're listening to The Mindful Experiment. Excited to have you here, have you on, and join me in this special week that we're wrapping up. What a freaking year, right? 2020 has been something that has been, in my opinion, has really been how life works. And too many times, the mind likes to control. It likes comfort. It likes routine. It likes processes. It likes to know the next thing that's going to happen. It's certainty, certainty, certainty. Majority of humans love certainty. What we don't like is uncertainty. And I think for individuals who are entrepreneurs in that nature, I think this is very easy for them to understand. The changes, it's just a little bit more severe than normal, but it's something that, there's always the unknown. You don't know when the next thing's going to happen or how things are going to go. If it's good now, you don't know if it's going to be good later, so you just appreciate the moment and all these different things. In life, though, one of the things is 2020 was a blessing, in my opinion. It was something to challenge your values, to challenge to see what really matters for you, to get you out of your comfort zone, to get creative, to stop being robotic in a sense. I call it the hamster wheel life, which means that you're doing the same thing over and over and over, and you're not really changing things up much. A lot of times people do this in relationships, right? We don't do date nights. We don't get dressed up. We don't get, try something new, get creative, be inventive, do something fun. We kind of get stagnant in there. We do that with our job and our career or our business. We do that with our life or our health or mental health. We don't get the creative side of things. And what this did was to challenge you to do that. And I think those who did are going to really thrive in the years to come because they're going to have a more fulfilled life because you did things to learn more, to do more. I'm not saying patterns won't come and comfort gets there and all of a sudden you get into that zone, but it's one of those things you could take on and do. And that's where I wanted to share in this podcast episode. In my meditation today, it was all about, saying I'm hearing this word verbiage of, I'm so happy 2020 is over. I'm looking forward to 2021, right? I'm hearing that quite often. And my whole thing is, hey, listen, 2021, we don't know what that's going to be either. What we do know is right here, right now. And the moment you take yourself out of the present is the moment all of a sudden now you're not going to be enjoying the time that's here. And this is when time flies by. This is when things go by so quick. See, the present moment is really where all your joy, bliss, and happiness is. Not happiness, your joy and bliss is at. It's your calm, your stillness, your peace, when you're truly in the present moment. And when we start to take our mind into the future, right, we think the grass is always greener on the other side. Not necessarily. I know in my own life experiences, it never has been. I always thought it was, and I create this whole wonderful image in my mind, right? And you got to be careful when you do that, where you create this whole image and this how your mind thinks it's going to be, and then actually there's reality, right? And when you get to the other side, you realize it's no different than that side. And so it's one of those things where in your life, you want to make sure that it's more about how can I learn where I'm at right now? What are the things that I can do here that I could have learned from this year? What are the things that it teach me? What has it taught me to do and become? And that I'm going to take that into 2020 or 2021, but I'm not going to say I'm hoping for 2021 to be better. I'm going to make it better because I'm going to deal with whatever shows up. Nobody knew walking into 2020 of how this year was going to be. And some people lost their business and some of them closed permanently, and there's people whose lives people aren't here anymore. These are the tragic part of the effects of this. And to a certain degree, I won't get into we should have locked down, we shouldn't have locked down, in that perspective. But it's the concept of that, with the businesses and so forth, we're there's some people that are just not going to be coming back. I heard in Chicago, it was like 45, 50%, up to 60% of restaurants will not be coming back. They will not. I know one of my favorites I like to go to shut down and they're not opening up anymore. And it's one of the things where it's like, oh man, but there's things that we can learn and grow from. There's always something we can gain. You always have to remember that in life. And I really believe if I can give you something for 2020, if I can just share one thing, you always gain in life no matter what. You always do. No matter what. Some people say, well, I lost a loved one, I lost a family member. Guess what, though? You gained in a perspective. What did you gain from there? You gained appreciation for the person. You gained and learned, you value them a little bit more now because they're not around. All of a sudden you learn about things that they taught you or things that they said, and it holds a higher level for you. You also gained a new relationship with them in a different way. Before you had a physical relationship. Now you have an energetic or spiritual relationship. So there's gains all along the lines. There are losses, but I personally don't believe there is. It's just things change. But sometimes when we see the change, we think there is losses because that's what the mind likes to go. But you have to shift that perspective and say, you know what? No, this is kind of how it went. And if you take some of these values that you learned in 2020 and look at what life has done and all the things that you went through, take that into 2021 and prepare and say, you know what, I'm going to take and learn. I had to learn to be a little more patient. I had to learn to figure out my own workout routines. I had to learn how to eat a little better. I got depressed. I started doing this or that. And I had to get myself, back to being centered. I started taking breath work. I started getting tired of my normal living, my normal life. There's things that you've done that have made change and shift. If you haven't done any of that, no worries. Take a moment to reflect. What can you have learned? Look for the gain, right? That's what I'm trying to plant into you today. Look for the gain. Look for the thing that really mattered most in your life that helped you drastically. Because I promise you it's there. And I promise you it's going to teach you to help you thrive, grow, evolve in many ways possible. Because nothing, and I mean nothing in life, does not happen for a reason. Nothing. That's a spiritual truth. There's a purpose and a reason behind everything. Nothing's accidental or a coincidence. Well, everything is all for a purpose. And so the key thing is for you to dive deep in and follow that. I shared a ton of podcasts this year about me sharing things on what you can do from fear to mindset to breathwork to being present to the state of gratitude. My last workshop podcast we did was on gratitude. I highly recommend checking those out because these are tools and tips and tricks that you can go ahead and utilize. And I teach you how to get out of that state of fear, how to get out of that state of depression, or how to get out of a state of frustration, anger, resentment, anxiety, and how you can get back into the present like this. So remember, the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is only green where you put your energy in, okay? And I'm going to be talking, I'm doing a special podcast tomorrow. So this is releasing on Tuesday here, December 29th. And I'm going to be releasing another one December 30th, possibly the 31st. But what I'll be doing is I'll be sharing things of what the purpose of focus is and what to focus for 2021. What's your one word? Right. This is something that book came out a long time ago and I started doing this. What's your theme for the year? What is it that you want to have? And we'll talk about that, why that's important, and we'll dive in deep. It's going to be a little bit of a longer session with me, longer podcast episode than I normally do solo. I'll probably go for about 30 minutes, but I really want to hammer a point with you guys for all the listeners. And for the subscribers if you're just new to the podcast, please subscribe. It really helps out the podcast. But more importantly, for the listeners who've been following me throughout this year, and for the years that I've been doing this, I want to thank you for that because it's truly has been an inspiration for me to keep moving forward and doing these and creating these. I love sharing information as much as I can. I love to create transformation. And then I also love to, hey, if someone's like, I love what you're saying, I'd love to be able to go another level. I have things I can help you with that too. But it's one of the things in your life to understand that the grass is not greener on the other side, and that the whole purpose is that what can you do for yourself right here, right now, to make the change in your life to create a difference so that you can rise and grow and evolve the way you want to. Because let me tell you something. There's a lot of people suffering in this world right now. Businesses, families losing lives, things like that. But there are also the opposite of that. There are more millionaires coming out. There's people opening up businesses and thriving. There are people's health at the best they've ever been in their entire life. You got to understand there's polar opposites to everything, and that's how the universe balances itself. It's called the law of duality. So once you realize that whatever you're experiencing, the only reason why you're experiencing it is because you're putting focus and energy into it. And that's the only way it can exist. And the only way you can change that is by shifting your focus and energy from what you've been experiencing or saying it and shifting it to something else. And this is why I'm not a fan of the news. Get away from the news, mainstream media. It's all fake news anyhow. And I hate how things have turned around where it's like, oh, fake news. Yeah, that's a new quote. I'm like, I've been saying fake news for 12 years. Like, it's not something new to me because being in the health world, I would hear what they would talk about, how would they portray things to get the public to want them to see it something a certain way. And I'm like, that's not really true. I'm like, yeah, you're talking about like 2%, maybe 10%, maybe 20% of the truth on that. And then there's a twist on the end of it. But long story short, focus on the things that matter most to you, because what happens is the media wants you to paint a picture for you and kind of tell you this is how things are, this is how it goes. And they want you to buy into that, and they pull you in through emotions. Fear is the big one. And so the key thing is no, you choose what you want to experience. You choose the reality, what you want to have. And for me, it's been this whole year, and people I've said this before, and I don't say this to impress you in any means. It's not how I am. But I press upon you though, that there's clients that I've worked with where they've created massive change. I had 3 clients this year, coaching clients that transformed. They changed businesses in the middle of all this, started a whole new business in the middle of all this. And you know what? They're doing well, right? A couple of them are thriving beyond they could ever imagine, and we have a couple others that they're getting how to get their ground positioned well before they go and take off. And now things are starting to soar. They got a rhythm in their place. Things are moving fast, and that's the key. So why? It's because of perspective and how we shifted their focus. And I'll be talking about that again in a special episode. So stay tuned. Check that out. Again, it'll be released no later than New Year's Eve will be the date at the latest. I'll have that out just in case I run into productive issues. But long story short, that's what I got for you guys today. So the whole purpose is that take a moment and do this exercise. Take a moment and just see what the year has taught you. Look at what's the good that came out of this year. I don't pay attention to the bad, because your mind, especially how your subconscious is programmed, you're going to shift immediately to the bad. We don't want to do that. We want to get into the good. We want to get into the what was good about this year. What did it teach you? What did you learn? And how did you evolve as a human being? Okay? Do that. And then keep that with you and keep it as a memory. You could tuck it in a folder. You could put it in something. Doesn't matter. Put it in a diary, journal. Doesn't matter. But the key is keep it around so you can always remember. Because in the moment when you come face another hardship, guess what? You go back there and you look and see what those hardships taught you. And if you want to add a little something, I just thought about this now. You can even put the hardship of what you went through this year and then what it taught you. Cool? So let's reframe that homework. I'm going to have you go ahead and write what hardships you went through and what they taught you. What was the good out of them? Cool? Let me know how that goes. But appreciate y'all. As always, if you thought this was powerful or inspirational, or you enjoyed the podcast and you know someone who can benefit from this, please do me a favor and pay it forward by sharing this with them and letting them get exposed to this podcast and what we're about. If this is the first time listening, please subscribe so you don't miss. Another thing you guys can do, if you want to get alerts via email of my podcast when it's released, new episodes and so forth, you can go to my website, empoweryourreality.com. And there's just you can go to powerreality.com/blog, or you can go to powerreality.com and just click on podcast. There will be a little box, a pop-up comes up. Go ahead and put your name and email in there, and you will never miss an episode that we have. Again, like I said, we're usually launching 2 a week. And this week I'll be having 3. So excited to share and start a new year with you guys. It's going to be a good one. But until then, keep rocking and rolling.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. For past shows, please visit www.empoweryourreality.com. I hope this show inspired you and added to your life to help you on the journey to rediscover who you really are. To connect with us on Facebook, please visit www.facebook.com/Dr. Vic Manzo. Check us out on Twitter. The handle is Dr. Vic21. Follow us on Instagram, www.instagram.com/Dr. Vic Manzo. If you were inspired by the podcast, pay it forward by sharing it with someone who you know can benefit from it. Thank you again for listening to the Mindful Experiment podcast, sharing paths to help you rediscover your infinite potential.